I came back from abroad early to surprise my wife. But I heard heavy breathing coming from the bedroom. The door was locked from the inside. Who is it? Chinyu's panicked voice rang out. She couldn't possibly think that a burglar had broken into the house, could she? It's me, holding a bouquet of flowers in my hands and a necklace I brought from the United States in my pocket. I was a bit excited. It had been a month since we last saw each other, and I wanted to hold Chinyu tightly in my arms. Wait for me. After about 3 minutes, Chinyu finally opened the bedroom door. Her cheeks were slightly red, her head was lowered, her clothes were disheveled, her hair was messy, and her eyes were avoiding mine. Why did it take you so long to open the door? The window was wide open, and a cold breeze blew in. Chinyu quickly blocked me. Husband, why did you come back a day early without telling me? The smile on her face was a bit stiff. When she saw the flowers in my hands, she immediately smiled broadly. Thank you, husband, I love them. Today, she was dressed up and looked very beautiful, with light makeup on her face, exuding a sense of charm. We had been married for 5 years and had a 3-year-old child, but she never wore makeup when she was at home. Today, she was acting a little unusual. I just wanted to surprise you. Where's our son? The room was empty, and he was obviously not there. He's sleeping. She pulled my hand to the next room, her palm slightly damp. We bought the house before we got married. It has 2 bedrooms and a living room. Chinyu doesn't have a job. After we had our child, she became a housewife and took care of our 3-year-old son. After the summer vacation, we can send him to kindergarten. Our son was lying on the small bed in the 2nd bedroom, sleeping soundly. His red face immediately made me feel like a doting father. I leaned over and kissed my son on the forehead. His hot forehead made me feel nervous. What's going on? Our son has a fever. I quickly found the thermometer. 41 degrees Celsius. I turned to look at Chinyu. With such a high fever, her meticulous nature would have noticed it. Her eyes were frantic, and she dared not look at me. Let's take our son to the hospital. I picked up my son and rushed out. When we arrived at the hospital, the doctor's words nearly made me collapse. If you had brought him 5 minutes later, the child would have died. I was paying the bill when my phone suddenly rang. Lu Su, are you at home? It was my colleague from work, Li Qixin. We were the closest colleagues in the company. I'm at the hospital. What's wrong? I asked. Why are you at the hospital? Her voice sounded worried. My son has a fever. My son was still in critical condition, and my heart was in knots. Which hospital? I'll come right over. Li Qixin's words left me confused. She must have something urgent to tell me. After paying the bill, I saw the doctor who had been treating my son walking over. Doctor, how is my son? I asked anxiously. He's stable now. We extracted a new type of non-benzodiazepine drug from your son's body. The doctor looked me in the eyes. Doctor, I don't really understand. Can you explain? I felt that something was wrong. In other words, your son took a drug with a sedative component, which caused a fever and anaphylactic shock. The doctor glanced at me meaningfully. My head spun. My son was only 3 years old. How could he have taken sleeping pills? Could it be Chinyu? I didn't dare to think about it. My phone rang again. Li Qixin said she had arrived at the hospital entrance. From a distance, I saw a figure running towards me. She had delicate features and large, bright eyes like pearls. Her forehead was covered in sweat. How is your son? The doctor said his condition is stable for now. Li Qixin clutched her chest and panted heavily. She looked behind me and asked, Where's your wife? She's watching our son. Oh, there's something I want to tell you. Don't get angry. She handed me her phone. I was taken aback, not quite understanding her intention. You'll understand when you see it. It was a video, apparently filmed from outside my home. Zooming in on my window, my anger surged up. A man with his upper body naked and wearing only shorts was climbing out of the window. One of his hands was suspended in midair, and he could fall at any moment and be crushed to a pulp. Our home was on the 19th floor. His chances of survival were 0. Who was he? Why didn't he just die? Half an hour ago, someone accidentally filmed it and sent it to me. Li Qixin didn't continue. Thank you. I forced a smile, which must have looked terrible. I'll go now, take care. After Li Qixin left, I tried my best to act calm as I returned to the hospital room. My son was out of danger, and Qinyu sat at the bedside, looking dazed. Without absolute evidence, I couldn't tip him off. I had to find that man and obtain concrete evidence of Qinyu's affair with another man. Before that, I had to keep up the act. Honey, don't worry too much. The doctor said our son will be fine. Qinyu leaned on my shoulder. It's all my fault. If something happens to our son because of me, you'll never forgive me, right? I didn't answer directly. What are you saying? Our son will be fine. After staying in the hospital for a day, the doctor examined our son again and found nothing serious, so we took him home. I asked Qinyu to go to the school to find a reason for our son to attend kindergarten next year, then installed the hidden cameras I had prepared earlier, ensuring every corner of the house was under surveillance. This time, I was going to catch him in the act. The next day, I went to work as usual. Li Qixin looked at me with concern and had specially bought breakfast for me. During my lunch break, I was smoking downstairs when Li Qixin casually walked over to me. Don't think too much of it, maybe it was just a misunderstanding. I believe her. Family matters should not be discussed outside the family, and I couldn't let anyone else know about my plan. Li Qixin looked embarrassed and asked, "Are you free tonight?" I thought about it and said, yes. I called Qinyu and told her I'd be home late tonight. I also wanted to see if Qinyu would test my limits while I was away. Li Qixin took me to a nearby restaurant and asked, "Do you know why I asked you out?" Li Qixin liked me from the moment I joined the company. Li Qixin was the boss's daughter, exceptionally beautiful, with countless young men chasing after her, but she had never even glanced at any of them. The affection and intimacy she showed me made me the object of envy among my male colleagues at the company. I found some clues, Li Qixin said, handing me several printed A4 papers and photos. I had someone look into it. Maybe it'll be useful to you. Thank you. I put the papers away. Li Qixin hesitated for a moment and said, "Actually, you should consider me." I was stunned, and she continued, "I don't mind that you're married with children." She was hinting at something, but I couldn't give her an answer. My mind was filled with images of Qinyu. Qinyu was the girl I had a crush on in high school. At that time, she was like a pure lotus flower in my heart, untainted and elegant. I, on the other hand, was a poor kid from a disadvantaged family who could only love her in secret. She probably didn't even know I existed in our class. After high school, I was admitted to a prestigious university in Beijing, but she disappeared without a trace. I met her again 3 years later. She looked haggard, as if she had aged suddenly. Through others, I learned that she wasn't doing well. She had attended a poor university but was expelled before graduating. As for the reason, I had no idea. She was still the same in my heart, and I felt a pang of pity for her. I began to pursue her, and at that time, I already had the means to make her happy. I had my own company in the capital city. Although I only had 7 or 8 employees, I already had my own career, a car, and a house. On Christmas that year, I proposed to her and gave her a custom-made diamond ring. She was moved to tears. The following year on Valentine's Day, we held our wedding, and in October of that year, we had our daughter, Dingtong. With a successful career and a beautiful wife by my side, my family was the envy of many. However, I was too busy with work, and my parents were elderly and lived in the countryside. They had difficulty walking and couldn't take care of the child. Qinyu works hard taking care of the child, so I never spare any expense when it comes to her. The meaning of my hard work is to ensure her and the child live happily. But I never expected that Qinyu would deliver the fatal blow when I was filled with beautiful dreams for the future. Li Qixin provided evidence, including Qinyu's call records and photos of her with a man. However, the photos only show the man's back. However, this evidence was enough to prove that Qinyu had cheated on me. I felt suppressed and distressed. I wanted to grab Qinyu by the collar and ask her why she did this. Had I ever done anything to hurt her? There was also Xiao Dingding's illness, sleeping pills? She didn't even spare a 3-year-old child. There must be something wrong here. I clenched my fists. Chinyu, I will make you suffer the full force of my anger. When I got home, I still bought groceries and cooked dinner. Xiao Dingtang was much more energetic. When he saw me, he happily threw himself into my arms, kissed my face, and called me daddy in a soft voice, melting my heart. After dinner, I played with Xiao Dingtang for a long time and put him to sleep. Chinyu snuggled into my arms and whispered in my ear, "Husband." In the past, I would have been unable to resist Chinyu's coaxing and would have immediately thrown her onto the bed, but after finding out that Chinyu had been cheating on me with another man, I only felt disgusted. I told her I was busy with work and a bit tired, and that she should go to sleep. Her eyes looked a bit resentful as she leaned against me and said in a pleading voice, "Husband, my mom called me today and said that my dad has his eye on a car, around 400,000 yuan, see if you have any spare money to lend him for now." Buy a car? I thought of my father-in-law's greedy face. When I was pursuing Chinyu, he demanded 2 million yuan as a dowry and insisted that I buy a 3-bedroom apartment in the city center. At the time, I was at the lowest point in my life. My business had failed, I was in debt for 3 million yuan, and creditors were constantly harassing me at my door. After I started dating Chinyu, I spent tens of thousands of yuan on her father, treating him to expensive cigarettes and wine during festivals, all to gain his approval for our relationship. Chinyu was the scarlet mark on my heart, the lotus flower in the mud. She was the goal of my life, so I would give her everything I had without hesitation. Yet, every time I saw my father-in-law, he would look at me with disdain. He said his daughter could have married a billionaire, but she chose to marry me, lowering her status. Despite all his objections, I eventually won him over with money. After all, during festivals, I would give him a red envelope with 1 or 2,000 yuan, along with various gifts, expensive clothes, watches, and jewelry, but deep down, there was a knot I couldn't untie. Doesn't he have a car? Before we got married, I paid for him to buy a Haval worth over 100,000 yuan, the highest-end model at the time, and he's only driven it for a few years. That car is already 4 or 5 years old, and his friends all drive Land Rovers and BMWs. You know he cares about face, Chinyu whispered in my ear. You know his temper, if you don't meet his demands, he'll cause us a lot of trouble. I sneered inwardly. He cares about face, so he treats me like an ATM? If Chinyu hadn't cheated on me, I might have considered it. If my father-in-law had been kind to me, I would have given him tens of thousands to buy a car, but now, I don't want to be a sucker anymore. Buying it is fine, I told Chinyu, but the money is all in the company account, and to withdraw it, we need to write a promissory note. Lu Su, you're being unreasonable. He's our father, and you're asking him to write a promissory note? Chinyu shouted. I reminded Chinyu that it was the law. The company's money was not my personal money, so I couldn't just use it as I pleased. Chinyu relented and said she would discuss it with her father and get back to me. She hugged the quilt and went to the next room, slamming the door shut. In the morning, I made breakfast and called Chinyu. We didn't speak. She was upset with me for being stingy about her father-in-law buying a car. I wanted to see if she could remain so at ease after cheating with another man. She finally couldn't hold back and said that her father-in-law had agreed. She wrote an IOU and asked me when she could get the money. I told her she could get it once she wrote it. In the afternoon, her father-in-law came to the door, looking furious, as if he wanted to eat me alive. I told him to write the IOU according to the rules and transfer the money from the company account to his personal account. He left angrily. Soon, I saw a message from my father-in-law on WeChat. He had bought a Lexus. In the photo, he was standing in front of the car, wearing a gold chain and a brand-name watch, sunglasses and a small bag, looking like a nouveau riche. Everyone knew that he had squeezed all that from me. Today is the weekend, and I promised Xiao Dingding that I would take him to the amusement park. Chinyu said she had plans with her best friend to go shopping in Sanlitun and wouldn't be joining us, telling me to take good care of the child. Her makeup was very delicate today, as if she were going on a date. I know Chinyu's best friends. I introduced them all. They're either the boss's daughter or the chairman's mistress, all of them skilled at spending money. As for whether Chinyu is really going to buy a bag, I'll find out soon enough. I took Xiao Dingding to the amusement park and we played on lots of rides, including the carousel, the Ferris wheel, and the mini boat. Children's world is so simple. His eyes were clear and innocent, and he was full of curiosity about the world. I thought to myself, for Xiao Dingding's sake, for the sake of this family, can I just keep being a greenhorn turtle and endure it? But the rage in my heart told me, why should I put up with this? I received a message on WeChat from a private detective I had contacted 2 days ago. I had paid him 100,000 yuan to collect evidence of Qinyu's infidelity. He sent me a message and a video. In the video, Qinyu was being held down on the bed by a man, and the two were engaged in a strange act. I clenched my fists. You bitch. Chapter 2, The Scapegoat. Dad, I miss Mom. Little Ding's words brought me back to my senses. Let's video chat with Mom, okay? I already had an idea in mind. Little Ding happily agreed, and I took her to the car and opened the video call. No one answered at first, so I kept streaming. Finally, I saw Qinyu on the screen. What are you doing? I'm looking at clothes, Qinyu said resentfully. I guess I ruined her fun. Mom, where are you? Xiao Dingding asked. Qinyu said she was trying on clothes. This nonsense could only fool a 3-year-old like Xiao Dingding. Mom, I want to see your new clothes. Xiao Dingding repeated exactly what I had taught him, and I couldn't help but give him a thumbs up. He was indeed my son, so smart. Qinyu didn't expect Xiao Dingding to make such a request and didn't know how to respond. I'll show you when we get home, okay? Son, Mom is a little busy right now. That was the truth. After all, she was doing something inappropriate with a man. Qinyu couldn't help but call out again. I felt that if I listened any longer, I would not be able to resist smashing my phone. You go ahead. The result was as expected, so why bother making myself unhappy? After hanging up, I was in a terrible mood. When did Qinyu start hooking up with that guy? Now I knew what he looked like, and he seemed familiar, but I couldn't remember who he was. The private detective hadn't given me any information about the man yet, so my gaze fell on Xiao Dingdong. A bad thought popped into my head, but I didn't dare to think about it. If it really was the result I couldn't face, what would I do? Xiao Dingdong hugged my neck. He seemed to sense that I was in a bad mood, so he kissed me lightly on the cheek. Little Dingding looks like Qinyu, with big eyes and fair skin, even more handsome than those children's clothing models online. My proud son, Dad doesn't want to hurt you. The grudges between adults have nothing to do with you. Qinyu came back late at night, already past midnight. She threw down her bag and complained about how tired she was from shopping. She went to take a shower, and I smoked in the living room. When she came out of the bathroom, she looked at me with disgust. Lusu, what are you doing? Why are you smoking at home? Don't you know how harmful secondhand smoke is to children? She wrapped herself in a bath towel, her hair still dripping wet. I have to admit that even though Qinyu had given birth, she still looked as fit as a young girl. She sat on the sofa wiping the water from her head, and I saw the red kiss marks on her neck. She noticed my gaze and a look of panic flashed across her face. She complained that it was autumn and there were still so many mosquitoes. Seeing that I didn't say anything, she probably tried to cover up her uneasiness by finding a topic to talk about. By the way, I have to take Xiao Dingding back to my house tomorrow. My mother hasn't seen her grandson in a week. I have to meet an important client tomorrow, so I told Qinyu that I won't be able to go and asked her to bring some good tea to my father-in-law for me. Qinyu and I pretended that nothing had happened, but I knew very well that our relationship was like an apple, perfect on the outside, but slowly rotting on the inside. The big client the company had arranged for me was specially arranged by Li Qixin. The other party was a senior executive of a Fortune 500 state-owned enterprise with access to hundreds of millions of dollars. I changed into a well-fitting suit. Li Qixin had already arranged the time and place for me. Naturally, Li Qixin was going to accompany me. At a cafe in a CBD area of Beijing, Li Qixin was already waiting for me at the entrance. Today, she wore a black casual dress, a short skirt revealing her long, slender legs, which were hard to take your eyes off. She had a graceful figure, her hair tied up, a delicate face, and bright, alluring eyes. She briefly introduced the other party's background and reminded me that if this deal went through, my commission would likely be over $1 million. Back when I was down on my luck, I met Li Qixin. Later, I accidentally ended up working at her father's company, and she helped me a lot. Without her, I wouldn't have been able to make a comeback. Li Qixin is my benefactor, but when I met her, I was already married and my wife was pregnant. He's here. Li Qixin perked up and stood up. When I saw his face clearly, I clenched my fists. Wasn't this the man in the video sent to me by the private detective? The man who had slept with Qinyu, Yang Zichen. He was also looking me over, his eyes deep and his mouth smiling. He exchanged a few pleasantries with me, then brought up our cooperation. Basically, the discussion went smoothly. Li Qixin had already communicated most of it beforehand. When it came time to sign the contract, he suddenly looked up and stared at me meaningfully. There's an old saying that behind every successful man there is a remarkable woman. I'm curious, Mr. Liu, you're so successful, your wife must be very beautiful, right? He was deliberately provoking or angering me, so blatantly, it seemed he had planned this in advance. If I let him anger me, I would likely fall right into his trap. Women are like clothes, if they don't fit, you change them. Li Qixin rolled her eyes at me. She probably didn't expect me to say something so frivolous. On the way back, Li Qixin was so angry that she didn't say a word. When we were almost at my house, she finally couldn't help but ask me, "Do you really think women are disposable?" I told Li Qixin that I was just playing around and not to take it seriously. "Your clothes are dirty, why don't you change?" I paused for a moment and smiled bitterly. My clothes were dirty, but I had worn them for so many years and had grown attached to them. I was about to drive Li Qixin home when Qinyu called. She sounded urgent and asked where I was, telling me to go to my father-in-law's house immediately. I had no choice but to drop Li Qixin off and let her take a taxi home by herself. You have to understand that she is a rich girl and no one has ever treated her like this before. When I arrived at my father-in-law's house, I saw that my father-in-law and mother-in-law looked very upset. Qinyu and Xiao Dingdang were sitting on the sofa with worried looks on their faces. "What's going on?" The atmosphere in the room was clearly wrong. Qinyu briefly explained what had happened. It turned out that after picking up the car, her father-in-law couldn't resist taking it out for a spin to show off, picking up a few card friends for a joyride. However, he ended up crashing into a Rolls-Royce in an alley. In his panic to flee, he also hit an elderly person, causing serious injuries, before speeding away. "Lusu, you have to save me. My father-in-law's panicked eyes seemed ready to kneel before me at any moment. If I get caught, I'll definitely be sentenced to prison." My mother-in-law was also there, saying, "Lusu, we all know you have connections. You can't abandon your father. If he gets arrested, I won't live either." She was crying and sniffling, her sorrow beyond words. "Dad, Mom, Lusu won't abandon us, right, Lusu? Did you drink?" I asked my father-in-law. At first, he tried to deny it, but his alcoholism made it impossible for him to have not drunk. "If you want me to help you, tell me the truth." My father-in-law lowered his head. He knew he couldn't deceive me. Seeing his silence, I realized this matter was beyond my ability to resolve. Although I had many connections, fleeing the scene of a traffic accident and hitting someone had already reached the standard for sentencing. I can only try my best, but I can't guarantee that I can help. My mother-in-law suddenly stood up and asked me to go to her room with her. After closing the door, my mother-in-law said that there was only one way to help my father, and it depended on how unwilling I was. It turned out they had already come up with a plan. I asked what the plan was. My mother-in-law seemed a bit reluctant. She said she would let Qinyu tell me. After we went out, my mother-in-law gave Qinyu a nod, and Qinyu told Xiao Dingtang to go play in the room first. When only the four of us were left in the living room, Qinyu spoke up. "The three of us have discussed this for a long time. If all else fails, there's only one last resort. My father is timid. Once he's locked up, his whole life will be ruined. You know how much he cares about his reputation. If people find out he did something like this, it would be worse than death for him, so..." She looked up at me. I already knew what she was going to say, but I still clung to a last shred of hope. After all, we had been married for 5 years. There had to be some marital affection left. "I hope you can take my father's place. When the police investigate, just say that you were driving the car. You were worried that you wouldn't be able to pay for the damage to the Rolls-Royce, so you panicked and didn't notice the old man on the side of the road." I couldn't help but laugh coldly. How cruel. In addition to being a cuckold, I now had another identity, a scapegoat. His family really thought highly of me. "I'm sorry, I can't help you with this," I refused outright. My father-in-law immediately flew into a rage. "Lusu, what's wrong with you? You're turning me down when I need you. I was blind to marry Qinyu to you." My mother-in-law chimed in, saying I was heartless and that I shouldn't have agreed to marry Qinyu in the first place. Leaving their house, I felt particularly relieved. I had finally refused them once. But when I thought about Xiao Dingtang still being at their house, I couldn't help but go back. Through the door, I could hear them arguing, accompanied by the sound of my father-in-law smashing things. I had Bluetooth earbuds in my ears. When I went in, I secretly placed a listening device under the sofa where I was sitting. Now they were furious at my behavior. Xiaoyu, what should we do now? He won't agree, said my father-in-law. There's no other way except to have him take the blame, said my mother-in-law. You saw it too, he won't listen to me, said Chinyu. My mother-in-law said, then we'll just insist that he did it. When he's locked up, you can divorce him. Isn't Zichen, the man you were with before, a high-ranking executive at a listed company? With your looks, you won't have any trouble finding someone else. But Lu Su is innocent, although I don't love him, he's been good to us all these years. You're still speaking up for him? You won't even help me, what use is a son-in-law like that? Tell Yang Zichen to come over for dinner right now. Once Lu Su is in jail, you'll marry him, your father and I will support you. I didn't listen anymore, their family's values completely shattered my worldview. Since you want to harm me, why should I care about you? I called a private detective and asked him to investigate Yang Zichen's background. Then I returned home and started going through the surveillance footage. On the bed where Chinyu and I slept, under our wedding photo, Chinyu and Yang Zichen were passionately embracing each other. Chapter 3, Playing Along with You. The private detective quickly provided me with information about Yang Zichen. It turned out that Yang Zichen and Chinyu had known each other before I came into the picture. Chinyu's failure to get into a good university was closely related to Yang Zichen. For 3 years, Chinyu disappeared from the face of the earth, seemingly with Yang Zichen. This was a story in itself. Looking at Yang Zichen's background, he came from a prominent family with connections, had countless women around him, and had been involved with countless women, celebrities, models, students, and even married women. He was a real-life version of a playboy. Chinyu was still in the dark, naively believing that after divorcing me, Yang Zichen would marry her. That day, Chinyu didn't go home but stayed at her father-in-law's house. As for what they planned to do, I already knew everything. What I didn't expect was that Chinyu actually initiated the divorce. Her reason sounded ridiculous. She said I didn't treat her parents like my own. It seems she's already found someone else, even divorcing so casually. I told her to find a time to talk properly. Divorce isn't impossible, but given their family's nature, they'll definitely make demands. Chinyu left Xiao Dingtang at her father-in-law's place. When she saw me, her attitude was unusually cold. Here's the divorce agreement. If you have no objections, just sign it. Since we can't be together, let's part ways amicably. I glanced at it, and the conditions she proposed made me laugh and cry at the same time. The house is hers, the car is hers, 70% of the company shares are hers, and even more outrageously, Xiao Dingtang is also hers. Do you want to think about it some more? I asked. What's there to consider? My father is in that state, and you're not even willing to help. What use am I to you? She was filled with righteous indignation, as if I was the one at fault. I really wonder how the mind of the woman I once loved so deeply works. Was I blind back then, or did I just lose my mind for a moment? But now I'm too lazy to argue. As for the divorce conditions she proposed, I'm sorry, but I can't meet a single one. I've already had someone gather evidence. I'm not at fault. As for Xiao Dingtang, I'll fight for her. The guy who's taking her off my hands is richer than me, so why should I be so generous? Your father hit someone and caused an accident. Why should I take the blame? Do I owe him something? Or am I just a pawn for you to sacrifice? My words made Chinyu's face turn red with embarrassment. Don't make excuses for yourself. We have to divorce now. Rest assured, I won't give up anything that's mine. I didn't sign the divorce agreement, and Chinyu stormed out. She also cleaned out all her clothes and cosmetics from the house. I smiled bitterly, not understanding what I had done wrong. However, the police quickly found me and said I was suspected of hit and run and asked me to cooperate with the investigation. Besides me, Chinyu and her parents were there. When they saw me, they immediately pointed at me and said, "It was him who hit the person and wants me to take the blame." I realized I had underestimated the shamelessness of her entire family. The police didn't ask me what happened and simply detained me. In that dark little room, I reflected on my life with Chinyu after we got married, and I finally realized that that woman had never loved me. After we got married, she rarely cared about me. When I went abroad on business, I was always the one who contacted her, and I never appeared in her WeChat moments. Especially when I wanted to be intimate with her, I had to wait for her to be in the mood. If she didn't want to, I couldn't touch her. Looking back on everything, I was really stupid. I was released soon, and Li Qixin came to pick me up. She looked at me with some pity and couldn't help but bite my cheek. You idiot. Li Qixin took me home, and I felt helpless looking at the empty room. Li Qixin tidied up a bit. Qinyu probably hadn't come back since she left that day. Li Qixin asked me what my plans were for the future. I shook my head. I hadn't thought about it yet, but of course I couldn't just let Qinyu's family get away with it. I had already obtained evidence that my father-in-law had been driving the car and fled the scene of the accident, but I hadn't decided to hand it over to the police yet. I always leave myself a way out, so we can still see each other in the future, but they broke the rules. Since they wanted to play, I would play along. Li Qixin saw that I was in a bad mood and said she would stay with me. Since there were 2 rooms, I didn't refuse. In the middle of the night, the door was suddenly kicked open. I saw Qinyu rush into the room with her hair disheveled and slap me across the face several times. She called me scum and said she wouldn't let me off. Her furious expression made me feel a surge of joy, even though my face was burning with pain. Li Qixin heard the commotion from the next room, got dressed, and rushed out, pushing Qinyu away. This was the first time I saw Li Qixin's fierce side. Qinyu wasn't a match for her. I almost forgot that Li Qixin had told me she was a black belt in Taekwondo. You 2 dogs, just wait, she said angrily before running off. Li Qixin was panting, staring at me, and couldn't help but laugh twice. Tell me, what did you do? Why is she so angry? I smiled without answering. You'll find out in a few days. My in-law's house was in an uproar. My mother-in-law said she wanted to jump off the building. My father-in-law hid in his room and refused to come out, and Qinyu left Xiao Dingdang at home and went out to find some peace and quiet. My poor Xiao Dingdang, I had to find a way to get him back. I drove to their house and confirmed that Qinyu wasn't home. Maybe she went out on a date with her lover. My mother-in-law opened the door and saw me. She asked me what I was doing here in a bad mood, saying that seeing me brought her bad luck. Little Ding Dong heard my voice and immediately ran over happily. Daddy, Daddy, I missed you. My heart softened. Little Ding Dong, Daddy is sorry. I shouldn't have let you go through so much at such a young age. I picked up Xiao Dingdang, and my mother-in-law tried to take him away, but she was no match for me. I'm taking Xiao Dingdang out to play for a few days. Without waiting for my mother-in-law's consent, I quickly ran away. Xiao Dingdang leaned on my shoulder and asked me why I hadn't come to see him in the past few days. I told him that Daddy was busy and had been on a business trip for many days. I felt a bit guilty. After all, little Ding Dong was so innocent. I was lying to him. At the entrance of a hospital, I told the doctor that I wanted to do a DNA paternity test. The doctor, unfazed, asked me to pay the fee. At the hospital where I did the paternity test, I saw the elderly man who had been hit by my father-in-law and expressed my deepest condolences to him. Sure enough, my father-in-law got what he deserved. Based on the evidence I provided, the police quickly figured out that my father-in-law was the one who caused the accident. Qinyu found the company where I worked. Li Qixin asked me if I wanted to see her. She could ask the security guard to stop Qinyu from entering the building. Of course I wanted to see her. How could she give up if I didn't see her? After not seeing her for a few days, Qinyu looked much more haggard. I thought back to when I first met her. She looked just like this. She knelt down in front of me. Lu Su, for the sake of our 5 years of marriage, please save my father, otherwise, our family will be destroyed. The area was already crowded with onlookers, and I felt helpless. I asked Li Qixin to help her up. Your father should take responsibility for his own actions, especially when I thought about being used as a scapegoat. I felt an inexplicable surge of anger. Can I see Xiao Dingding? She didn't dwell on the matter with her father-in-law, probably because she knew I couldn't change anything. No matter how much I hated her, she was still Xiao Dingding's mother, and I had no reason to prevent her from seeing her child. I had someone bring Xiao Dingtang over. As soon as she saw her, she burst into tears, sniffling and sobbing. I was taken aback. She began to berate me, calling me a monster, a scummy man, accusing me of having an affair with Li Qixin behind her back, and saying we were a pair of dogs who didn't care about their mother and daughter. She even said that I had been involved with Li Qixin since she was pregnant. Heavens, I didn't even know Li Qixin back then. I was stunned. Li Qixin never expected Qinyu to pull this stunt. Her face turned red. In terms of thick-skinnedness and shamelessness, she was no match for Qinyu. Li Qixin warned Qinyu that if she dared to say another word, she would have her thrown out. She showed no fear, as if she had already prepared herself. Soon, several reporters rushed over with cameras and microphones, aiming them at Li Qixin and me and snapping photos. I could hear Qinyu's voice in my ear, saying, "Look, look. These two dogs, disregarding their wives and 3-year-old children, are the scum of the earth." Because Li Qixin and I had special positions in the company, this incident had a huge impact when it was exposed. We immediately went viral online, trending on social media. The comments were filled with insults and condemnation toward Li Qixin and me, and people even tracked down our company address and sent us razor blades. The situation escalated beyond imagination. Li Qixin's father, the chairman of the company, who was on vacation in Hainan, heard the news and immediately flew back overnight. To minimize the impact on the company, I was dismissed from my position. I still have my own company, so the impact isn't too severe, but Li Qixin is different. She is a prominent figure in high-level circles, and the incident left her too afraid to leave her home for days. I sent her a message expressing my guilt, but Li Qixin brushed it off, reassuring me that with me by her side, she wouldn't fear even the sky falling. Xiao Dingdong was taken away by Qinyu, and everyone outside was attacking me. I felt like I had become an internet celebrity. However, things hadn't reached the worst point yet. I still had a trump card up my sleeve. From what I knew of Qinyu, she was all skin and no brains. She couldn't have come up with this on her own. It was obvious that someone was behind her, and that person was most likely Yang Zichen. It looks like Yang Zichen wants to play with me. Chapter 4. Are they really my children? I sat on the sofa in the living room smoking, and my gaze suddenly fell on the family photo of me, Qinyu, and Xiao Dingding on the wall. Xiao Dingding was smiling happily, while Qinyu's gaze was as calm as a pool of dead water. It's my fault for being so stupid. Qinyu doesn't love me. I could feel it clearly. Why did I keep deceiving myself? For example, when we were chatting, she would say certain things that I didn't hear or didn't understand. When I asked her to repeat herself, she would snap back, "Can't you understand what I'm saying?" That kind of attitude and tone isn't something you'd expect from a married couple. I suddenly remembered her coming to me in the middle of the night and calling me a scumbag. Could it be that my actions had worked? 3 days ago, I got the test results from the hospital where little Dingdong was admitted with a high fever. Someone had deliberately fed him sleeping pills. Although the dosage wasn't very high, it could still be fatal for a 3-year-old child. I went to great lengths to find out the reason. It turned out that Yang Zichen had come to my house that day. Xiao Dingtang didn't like Yang Zichen and kept crying. Yang Zichen found it annoying. Coincidentally, Qinyu had been suffering from insomnia and had bought a pack of sleeping pills from the pharmacy a couple of days earlier, so Yang Zichen asked Qinyu to give Xiao Dingtang some sleeping pills, so they could enjoy themselves. Qinyu was initially concerned that the sleeping pills might harm Xiao Dingtang, but Yang Zichen assured her it wouldn't, saying it was just a small amount. That day was the day I returned from the United States. I was holding flowers and jewelry I had bought in the United States, filled with joy, but they were having sex on the bed where I had been sleeping. I also sent Qinyu the video Li Qixin had sent me of a naked man hanging a pair of shorts outside the window. Sure enough, Qinyu panicked. She had come back just to test me, to prove whether I knew about the disgusting things she had been doing behind my back. Qinyu might suspect me, but she had no evidence. Suddenly, a stranger added me on my phone, but the gym avatar made me recognize him immediately. Wasn't this Yang Zichen? I hesitated and refused. This man added me. Was he out of his mind? He added me again repeatedly, and on the 3rd time, he sent me a message, so I had no choice but to accept. The message read, "I know you and Xiao Dingding did a paternity test. How about we make a deal?" After adding him as a friend, I threw my phone aside and slept soundly. During that time, Yang Zichen tried to video call me many times. I typed a few words and asked him what he wanted. He replied quickly, "Can we meet and talk?" I replied, "I don't have time, nor am I interested. There's no need for us to talk." I said I was fishing, and my line was long enough. I calculated the time and figured it was almost time to reel it in. Back then, I was able to get into a prestigious university in Beijing, so I'm not stupid. I beg you, just agree to meet me once, and I'm willing to pay for the mistakes I've made. I had been waiting for those words. I felt the thrill of holding someone by the throat. Since you're so sincere, come to my place. I didn't need to tell him the address, he could find it with his eyes closed. 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I opened the door and saw Yang Zichen standing there looking disheveled. I let him in. It was laughable to think that we would meet in this situation because of the same woman. I lit a cigarette, sat on the sofa, and asked him casually, "You should be familiar with this place, right?" Yang Zichen wasn't stupid. Since I said that, it meant that I already knew all his secrets. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so eager to see me. "Please let me go. I promise you, I'll cut off all contact with your wife, and I'll compensate you for your losses. Whatever you want, I'll give it to you." Looking at Yang Zichen, who was begging like a dog at my feet, you must be wondering what I did. It was actually quite simple. I had a private detective investigate Yang Zichen's background. His family had someone with a high-ranking position in politics. I simply packaged the private videos of Yang Zichen with other women and sent them to him. That person held Yang Zichen's life in his hands, and my videos clearly had the desired effect. Yang Zichen was expelled from his family and company, and even faced expulsion from the capital. For someone like Yang Zichen, a playboy, leaving his family meant he was effectively in society. Compared to the status and wealth he valued, a woman was insignificant. He was a smart man. With a little thought, he could figure out that I was the one behind it all. "I can let you go, but you have to help me put on a show." I whispered a few words in Yang Zichen's ear. "Oh, and Xiao Dingding," I looked at Yang Zichen, he should know better than me what I wanted. Everything was going according to plan. Qinyu didn't back down at all when it came to Xiao Dingding's custody. With my help, my father-in-law was quickly sentenced to a year in prison, which would be enough for him to learn his lesson. Qinyu has recently become arrogant and started live streaming online. As the central figure in the recent scandalous affair, she keeps posting videos, fabricating stories about how I am a scumbag and how I wronged her. The onlookers are just watching the spectacle, and many people are leaving comments saying they want to marry her, that a man like me doesn't know how to appreciate her, and that I'm wasting her beauty. Qinyu is beautiful, so it's normal that men like her. I'm just one of the many men who like her. For the first time, I realized that Qinyu is quite talented at making up stories. Why didn't she become a writer? Qinyu filed for divorce in court, accusing me of having an affair while we were married, and hoping that the court would rule in accordance with the divorce agreement. At the same time, she also announced her new lover, Yang Zichen, in her WeChat moments. I felt a bit jealous. We've been married for 5 years, and she's never posted a single message about me. In this regard, I'm no match for Yang Zichen. At this moment, Qinyu is on top of the world, seemingly on the verge of marrying into a wealthy family. The outcome I desired was about to be realized. The news of Qinyu's engagement to Yang Zichen spread throughout the capital. They even sent me a wedding invitation, inviting me to attend. Qinyu wanted to see me humiliated, to show me that after divorcing me, she had hooked up with a wealthy playboy, a second-generation billionaire. Their wedding was scheduled for a week later, reportedly at the most luxurious hotel in the capital, the Carlton. Since Qinyu was being so kind and inviting me so enthusiastically, wouldn't it be too hurtful for her if I didn't go? On the day of their wedding, I wore my most expensive suit. As soon as I stepped out the door, I saw a Maserati parked at the entrance. In the car, Li Qixin, wearing a white lace chiffon dress, smiled at me. "Could it be that you?" I had already guessed. Of course, in a situation like this, without me, it wouldn't be as exciting, Li Qixin joked. Li Qixin's arrival was the icing on the cake, so of course I wouldn't refuse. When we arrived at the Carlton, there were many people, and from afar, I could see Qinyu's hostile gaze directed at us. Today was her wedding day with Yang Zichen, and my appearance with Li Qixin completely stole their thunder. The master of ceremonies took the stage and delivered a long speech blessing the newlyweds. "Do you take Mr. Yang Zichen as your husband?" In sickness, the LED screen behind them, which had been showing sweet wedding photos of the couple, suddenly switched to intimate scenes of the two of them. Next, a man was hanging out of a window on the 19th floor, swaying precariously, followed by Chinyu sticking her head out of the window and then hurriedly leaving. The crowd immediately became noisy, and everyone's eyes turned to Chinyu. Yan Zichen's face was blurred in the video, even though he was the male lead. Chinyu's face immediately changed. "Lu Su, you bastard, I won't let you get away with this. If today wasn't her big day, if it wasn't this occasion, she would have killed him without hesitation." She suddenly snatched the microphone and shouted, "Everyone, hello. I am the bride today, don't misunderstand, this is a malicious frame-up by that scummy man. The man in the video is my husband standing right beside me, Mr. Yang Zichen. Intimacy between couples is nothing out of the ordinary, right?" Her gaze turned to Yan Zichen, as if waiting for him to admit that he was the man in the video. She widened her eyes, opened her mouth, and froze completely because of what Yang Zichen said. "I'm sorry, I'm not the man in the video." After saying that, he threw down the microphone and hurriedly left. Chinyu sat on the ground, her eyes vacant. "Mom," a crisp voice rang out, and I had someone bring little Ding Dong over. There were whispers of mockery all around. Everything was as I had expected, and it was the perfect ending. On the way back, Li Qixin looked at me. "Lu Su, I didn't expect you to be so scheming." I smiled. "Do you love me? Are you afraid?" Li Qixin shook her head. "I have a question, can you answer it?" Seeing that I didn't speak, she continued, "I want to know if Xiao Dingtang is your child." "You guess," I smiled at Li Qixin.